Group podcast and Jesus and Ugly Jody. Jody, thanks for stopping by the host. And we're going to go into another conversation. I still have to get used to this name. It's such a great name because I've never heard of a name like this. So that's what's really cool.
Yeah, well, it's Jesus comes first and then Ugly Jody. And as I said
Yeah.
before, that's I got the nickname when I was in the FBI, and there was a couple of female employees named Jody, and so to differentiate, I was Ugly Jody and they were Pretty Jody.
All right. All right. So we're going to talk today about law enforcement and government experience. After 28 years in state and federal law enforcement, what leadership principle proved true every single time for you?
Yeah, the way I like to describe it is this: humble confidence. As a state trooper and an FBI agent, I found that when I approached situations, whether it was a car stop or a hostage situation or an investigative case I was working, if I worked it with humble confidence, and to me that means I come in with a humble presentation. I always said ma'am and sir, even in fights. Like my trooper buddies would pick on me because they watch the video of me fighting somebody on the side of the road, and I'm still saying sir and ma'am to them. But when you come in with a humble confidence, it's you approaching a situation where you know God's going to work in and through you during the situation, even though it may not always feel like you're in control. Which for law enforcement folks and others, military or other type A personalities, it kind of freaks us out when we're not in control. Um, but you have the confidence to know that, hey, God's equipped me for this task. God has designed me specifically with my gifts, skills, and talents to be able to execute on this opportunity and this task. And so for me, really that humble confidence is the way I carried myself throughout my law enforcement career. And I found it to be helpful because even if it was just a conversation with somebody, when they know that you're coming at it with an idea or a mindset of, hey, this isn't all about me, they're more willing to work with you and to collaborate.
Absolutely. It seems like that's so important that they're willing to work with you because of just how you present yourself each and every day. So and that's important because of the professionalism, right? Professionalism is such a huge part of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously, part of that professionalism has to be, what can we do to create a win-win-win environment for everybody? This isn't how can I get ahead? How can I get my next promotion? How can I get a raise? That's not what it should be about. It should always be about, hey, what can we do together to where we all walk away with something more or better than what we had before?
What are government leaders consistently getting wrong about strategic collaboration?
Yeah, great question. So, when I was obviously I worked in a multi-agency drug intelligence center, and then was the supervisor of the FBI Cyber Task Force. In both of those environments, which were multi-agency, meaning they're supposed to be collaborative in nature, a lot of times you find government leaders, and at least for me, it was government leaders in those situations. But I'm finding now that I'm working more in the corporate world, you'll run into folks who they forget about what collaboration really looks like and means. It's not, hey, give me all your information so I can put it together and I can look good, to my superiors, or I can create a great intelligence product that's going to make my agency look good. It's giving a little bit and getting a little bit. When I was at the multi-agency drug intelligence center, I actually worked to give up more FBI information that was currently being shared there because I quickly recognized that some of the agency partners we were working with, they were working cases that could easily have helped us. We were really only working drug stuff at first, but we realized that, hey, there's organized crime information that the FBI has that could help our ATF and ICE partners that were working organized crime elements. And so I actively worked to try and increase the information that was being shared there. At the FBI Cyber Task Force, one of the things I did was I took some poetic license because I had a great supervisor who let me do that. Um, and I basically invited all of our task force partners to say, hey, listen, if you're working a cyber matter and it's a little bigger than the resources you've got, um, you know, open up a correlating or a corresponding case here with us at the FBI and let us help you. You use some of our intelligence, our law enforcement investigative and sensitive information to help you with your law enforcement investigation. Let us use our intelligence analyst to help you do targeting packages. Let us use some of the techniques and methods that we've got available to us at the FBI that you may not have at your agency. And what I found was is that when I did that, and these agencies came in and they took advantage of it and they used it, well, when something came up down the road and the Bureau needed something from that agency, it was a very easy ask for me because we'd already given them so much. But a lot of leaders don't do that. They always want to kind of protect stuff and keep it close to the vest and not share information. And I understand there's a time where there may be some investigations or intelligence matters you're working that are highly classified or you need to have a small group of people with access to the information. But when you're working law enforcement, most of the time you can share a lot of information. And it's the same in the business world for the most part.
So here's the problem with collaborating with people. Let's talk about, first of all, when you were in the FBI. Collaborating with other agencies sometimes doesn't work. Okay. Meaning they don't get along. They don't enjoy collaborating with each other. They have their certain quirks. The same thing comes when I'm looking at a marketing collaborate, let's say podcasters collaborating with marketers or podcasters collaborating with other podcasters. Sometimes ego gets in the way. How do you make sure you're not the one that gets ego in the way and or understanding if it and evaluating finally if this collaboration is worthwhile?
Yeah, so kind of two different questions on that. The ego question is the easiest to answer because that goes back to my humble confidence mentality. If a leader comes with humble confidence into any situation, that alone should eliminate the ego issue. Not to say that they don't have an ego, but hopefully they've minimized it to the point to where it's not going to impact the decision making that they're going to be doing in that environment because they have that humble confidence coming in. Second, as far as whether a collaboration works or not, again, that's where you have to be open enough to share ideas. One of the things I find now with the business clients that I consult with is, you know, I like to come in and kind of what I tell them is give me your sales pitch. Like pitch me like I'm a government entity going to buy your solution. Tell me what you've got and why you are either the best in industry or you're the only one doing what you're doing. Because those are the type of clients that I take on. And I've had, listen, I've probably heard pitches from 50 different companies at this point. I only have, probably five clients I put a lot of time and attention to, and then a couple that are kind of some tier two clients I support. But, there's a lot of clients that I listen to, and for one reason or the other, we went separate ways. And maybe it was because they had a product that was good, but it wasn't great. It wasn't, there wasn't anything that made it stand out, or they just weren't prepared to bring me on or didn't see the value that I can bring to them with strategic consulting. Um, so, I think that's the other big thing is trying to see the value that different elements can bring in and taking the time to assess it. And some people just can't. They're overwhelmed with decisions and they're putting out fires all day as leaders. Where that's one of the things I try and help leaders do is to create margin where they can delegate things down. They can help to free up some time so they can look more strategically at some of the opportunities that are coming their way.
That's absolutely true. And I think that why does ego get in the way? Okay, so give you an example. I'm not going to go take your clients. Let's just say you're almost in the same business. You might have certain strategic skills. However, some things overlap. How I always am like, you know what? It's not worth it. There's so many fish in the sea. I'm not going to see this as an ego thing. I'm only going to help out and we collaborate on things that I don't provide, that someone else doesn't provide. But why does that ego get in the way? And I guess you evaluate those things so much in your relationships, it sounds like. But talking about collaboration, it's hard to get people to collaborate in different fields. That's why I saw how amazing it is for you to do it in different agencies. If television is true about it, it seems like the FBI and CIA don't always like to work together, or the FBI and ATF, or I'm just giving you an example. It's sometimes, but
Well,
you're able to go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, don't always believe what you see on TV.
Okay.
But I will say this. There are egos. Usually it's more at the upper levels of leadership and organizations that don't get along because you have two strong egos in different agencies. They may butt heads. But I will tell you, I've worked with many a case officer at the CIA or special agents at ATF and DEA, U.S. Marshals, and we all get along just fine because even when I was a state trooper, there was, oh, this particular county police department doesn't like Virginia State Police. Well, when you're in a fight on the side of the road at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that officer from that PD shows up, or vice versa, they're fighting somebody on the side of the road and you show up. When you're a badge and a gun, you get in there and you help out. Even off-duty officers will help each other out because they know nobody else is going to come in and try and save them. Um, and so, I do want to clarify that piece. One of the things I found successful in my line of work and what I'm doing as a consultant is being able to help these executives see how collaboration can benefit them. I've created an opportunity for several of my clients where I bring in folks who have, to your point earlier, they're doing something in a different industry, but that industry can actually help elevate or enhance what my client is doing. And so I do the introduction. I explain to them, hey, this is the strategic vision that I've got. And let me rewind one more step. All of this stuff comes through prayer. I open all my meetings with my clients in prayer. I say, Lord, if give us wisdom, give us discernment, help us to see where we can collaborate and build together. And if we can't, Lord, make that clear to us as well. Sometimes there's calls that I get on that I think are going to be great business calls, and they turn into ministry calls because someone, an individual who may be a CEO, their loved one's dying from cancer, or their kid has a drug issue, and so we just spend the time talking and praying. And we don't even talk business sometimes. We just, talk about life and be an avenue for them to share and to open up to. Um, and there's other times where I call somebody thinking, oh, this will be a prayer call. We're going to do some ministry stuff. And I find out that they're in a business industry that works well and they're looking to expand. And, I'm able to make a few phone calls and connect them. So, I leave a lot of it very open-handed to the Lord as to what he's going to do and in his timing, which that's the other big thing in business. When God is going to bless you, his timing is critical. The devil can bless you very, very fast, but there's a huge cost to it. But when you wait for God's timing and the blessings that come with that, the overabundant, just overflowing of your cup, um, it doesn't happen on our time, but when it does, oh boy, it's worth it.
It totally, and that's the thing. I think that you have the patience to wait for it. The example I gave in collaboration, and I think this is a great topic to talk about because a lot of people don't want to collaborate. Give you an example. I work with lots of PR agents that I always book guests for them. I mean, they book guests on my show, and I offer say, sure, I'll take your guest on, and regardless, because I want to have that story. But if I come to them and ask them, do you know of any of your clients that would need marketing? They all are scared to work with me because they feel that they don't have the budget to pay for PR and marketing. And that same thing happens with SEO. That same thing happens. That's why I've become a one-stop shop because these collaborations that I would love to have, these strategic collaborations, and say, okay, I don't have to worry about this. There's no ego getting in the way. Here you go. This is perfect. You're a much better specialist for this position. However, they don't do that. So I think that you've learned is you really bring this relationship first before business instead of the other way, business then relationship. And I think that opens up the door to see that there's a true trust involved in your relationships, in your business relationships.
Yeah, and what you described, so in the ministry field, we call that a scarcity mentality. These PR folks that you're talking to, they have a scarcity that, oh, well, if I give Neil this, I'm going to lose it. Whereas in my mindset, it would be, hey, I'll give Neil this, and down the road, Neil may give me two or three deals because he's overwhelmed with what he's doing, and now I'm getting stuff coming back in. Um, and I agree. I do have the patience, Neil, but not all my clients have the patience. They want the money in now.
They
I
have the now mentality.
well,
Understand?
again, they're the CEO of the company. They've got people that they have to
Yeah,
report
they
to and
got
answer
it.
to, and shareholders and things like that. Which I try and walk them through and pray with them about. Hey, listen. God's going to bless you, but he's going to do it in his time and not the shareholders' time. Like the strategy that I try and help craft for my clients is one that I can show them the path. If we continue down this path and going in this direction, this should be where I think the Lord is leading us. Um, and I'll say sometimes it works phenomenal. Sometimes it works better than I ever imagined or anticipated. Other times it doesn't work out the way that I thought it would. It doesn't mean God's not with us. It doesn't mean God's not for us. It's just God has other plans, and we have to be open and willing to change and adapt to those plans.
Yeah, change and adapt, so important in this conversation. So I mean, could go back and we probably will talk collaboration again, Jody, but that's something, and I would say that advice is, with me becoming a one-stop shop, but that's why you work with someone like Jody. Jody can see the clear picture and let the egos disappear in so many aspects. But that's through prayer, that's through patience, and that's through strategic leadership, which you provide. How do intelligence and law enforcement's experience shape the way you assess risk in business or ministry?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, I probably am a little bit more cynical than most, just having spent 28 years in law enforcement and working with our intelligence community and Department of War partners. Um, I think most folks in that field don't trust other people, just generally. Um, and so, one that obviously, again, I start with every relationship as a prayer. And I give folks the ability to say, hey, listen, this is a clean, fresh slate. Like I love letting people tell me their story. And that's how I start many of my relationships is, hey, tell me your story. And I don't put any, caveats or clarifying questions around it. I just say, tell me your story. And I let them share whatever they feel comfortable sharing. And I may ask, well, hey, let's expand on that more, or, process do that with me a little bit here. Because I find that when you take time to get to know somebody and you're able to build a strong personal relationship, one, you can be an asset for them because if you're truly listening to what they're saying, not just hearing their words, but listening, um, that can help you get insight as to maybe how the Lord is calling you to serve them or give them an encouraging word or maybe a verse that you may have read a day or two before. God gave you that verse to share with this person, but you didn't know it until they shared with you this blank thing. And then it's like, oh, that verse I just read, this fits perfectly with that. Let me share this with them and put it into context for them. Um, and then I think the other big thing would be being able to look at it with the skepticism, but also with the hope that we get that Jesus gives to us, and say, hey, anybody can be redeemed. Any situation can be redeemed if the people in the situation are looking to do that. There are some people that are just hardened their hearts, and no matter what you say or do, they're angry, they're hopeless, they don't see a positive way forward. And that's where you just have to pray because even Jesus talks to his disciples when they go out, and these guys have been casting out demons. They've been doing some really cool stuff, and they get to this one kid who they can't cast this demon out, and it's a tough, stubborn demon, and they got to wait for Jesus to show up, and he does it, of course. But they ask him like, "Hey, Jesus, what happened? Like, why couldn't we cast the demon out?" And he says, sometimes you just have to pray. And it's basically saying sometimes you just have to wait for God to do it in God's timing. And it's not us. Um, and I think to me, that's been a tough thing because on the ministry side, I've seen people pour their hearts into folks who have no plans of seeking after God. And it crushes them. But then on the law enforcement side, I've seen people who, hey, this is a criminal, they're doing bad things, they need to go to jail. And there's no chance of redemption, there's no chance of them redeeming themselves. Um, and so I've seen kind of both sides. And that I feel to me is one of the ways that my experiences has helped me is to try and find um, both the positive, the hopeful side that God has in Jesus, but also the realistic side that not everybody's going to heaven. And
All right.
that's in the scripture.
Well, I enjoy these conversations. We're gonna have guests on this show too, so it's a round table discussion about faith, about business, about leadership, and I think that the leadership is something that people need to watch as the evolution of AI is coming. I was telling you offline, I've onboarded my first AI employees. And guess what? It's not like you just let them work. That's coming with OpenClaw, but that's for another conversation. That leadership's still very important because ultimately you want even your AI employees to exhibit the behaviors that you want your company and values to be. That means be aligned, whoever is managing that employee, making sure that they're saying the same things because it just makes you more and more important. Because if you're not in alignment, if you don't do what you say and preach what you say and do it, and your actions and your team and your company does not show that, you're going to lose a lot of customers and clients. You're not going to keep them for a long period of time, and you're going to fall apart in so many ways. So, Jody, best place people can connect with you is where?
On LinkedIn, follow me on X, and hopefully soon we'll have a YouTube channel set up.
Oh, that's coming. You know that this is the first month is the process of getting things going. We came up with a name. This is the process. It's not a okay, wake up and marketing begins, but the goal is to get the message out. And if you're looking to work with Jody, please contact him. Appreciate it, Jody. That was a special Trimulcast of the Neil Haley Show, the Storehouse Media Group podcast, and